Chapter 17. I searched those woods till it was almost dark. I called Wishbone's name till my throat hurt. I walked up and down the side of the road till my legs ached. Finally, I went to Howard's to get Lenny's bike that I left in the yard that afternoon. I could hear the Odoms inside eating supper, everybody laughing and saying, "Pass the butter," and stuff. I pictured them in there crowded around the kitchen table. The boys poked each other and grabbed for the last biscuit. Mrs. Odom's cooking more fried chicken and kissing the tops of their heads. Mr. Odom's eyes twinkling as he watched his happy family. I wondered if Howard had told them what I said about his wish. And if he did, what did all those good-hearted Odoms think of me now? When I got home, I went straight back to my room and held the biggest pity party of my life. I laid on Wishbone's pillow on the floor beside the bed, breathing in his doggy smell, and I cried until I fell asleep. I woke up to Bertha whispering my name. The room was dark except for the faint glow of the lamp in the living room floating through the half-open door of my room. I closed my eyes real quick and pretended like I was still asleep. I couldn't stand the thought of telling Bertha about my day, how Wishbone didn't want to be my dog anymore and had run off, how I said such a mean thing to Howard. I thought maybe Bertha would leave, but she didn't. She gave me a little shake and whispered my name again. "Come get some supper," she said. "I'm not hungry," I mumbled under the pillow. "Your favorite," she said, "grits with cheese and bacon." I shook my head. I felt like a pouty baby. I even had the urge to suck my thumb. When I acted like this back in Raleigh, Mama would say, "Quit that baby whining before I jerk a knot in you." But Bertha said, "You know, sometimes when you've had a bad day, eating grits makes you feel better." She poked me with an elbow. "I know that from experience," she added. I sat up and hugged my knees. I leaned a little closer to Bertha until we were touching, arm to arm, knee to knee. She smelled like someone who spent her days in the kitchen, bacon and coffee and cinnamon, but she looked like someone who spent her days outdoors, arms tan and leathery, dirt under her fingernails. "Wishbone is gone," I whispered. She nodded and pushed a strand of wispy hair behind her ear. "Gus is out there looking for him," she said, "and Gus is a man you can count on." A teeny tiny glimmer of feel better worked its way into my heart. I knew she was right about that. Gus did seem like a man you could count on. But what if Wishbone wants to be a stray again? I asked. Bertha sat up straight and took my chin in her hand. "Charlie Reese," she said, "you think that dog don't know a good thing when he sees one?" "What good thing?" I said in my pouty baby voice. She held up a finger each time she counted off. 1, he eats bologna for breakfast. 2, he sleeps on a pillow. And 3, he is loved by an angel. Angel? Huh. So here's where I had to go and ruin that image of me as an angel. "I said something mean to Howard," I muttered. Silence. Why had I gone and told her that? I wish I could take those words back, gather them up like butterflies in a net, stay an angel in her eyes. And then I got this bad thought. What if Bertha was wrong about dogs loving you and no matter what? What if Wishbone knows I'm mean and that's why he ran off? I could feel Bertha's warm skin against mine, hear her soft breaths in the stillness of that little room. Finally, she slapped a hand on my knee and said, "You need some grits." As soon as I woke up the next day, I looked down at the pillow on the floor, and more than anything, I wanted Wishbone to be there. He wasn't. I hurried into the kitchen. Bertha was shelling peas at the table. "Where's Gus?" I asked. "He went to work." I sank into the chair across from her. "I guess he didn't find Wishbone," I said. She looked at me all sad-eyed and shook her head. "No, he didn't. But he said to tell you we can get out there and look when he gets home. He set up that trap of yours last night, and I put some scraps in it, so we can keep an eye on that. And don't forget, Wishbone has a tag on his collar. I'm sure somebody will call us when they find him. She pushed a box of cereal toward me. Eat some breakfast. But how could I eat with my stomach all balled up like it was? And then there was my other problem. Howard. What was I going to do about Howard? Guilt was gnawing at my insides, and I watched Bertha shelling those peas. Every now and then she glanced up at me, and when she did, I had to look away real quick. There she was, over there on the other side of the table, thinking I was an angel, and here I was on my side, feeling about as far from an angel as anybody could be. Are you going to ask me what mean thing I said to Howard? I asked her. She shook her head. No, I'm not. How come? She tossed a handful of peas into the bowl and leaned toward me. Charlie, she said, you can't judge people for the mistakes they make. You judge them for how they fix those mistakes. She reached across the table and patted my hand. Besides, you think I haven't ever said a word or two I wanted to snatch back? She winked. Just ask Gus if you don't believe me. It was for sure Bertha had said a lot of words in her life, seeing as how she was such a talker. But I was pretty sure none of those words were mean, like mine. Mean and Bertha did not go together. Now, why don't you get dressed and we'll figure out what to do about Wishbone, she said. But before I could even think about how to start this sorry day, someone knocked on the front screen door, and imagine my surprise when I saw who it was. Howard! I stood there barefoot in my pajamas with my hair a big rat's nest and searched for something to say. But then Bertha jumped right in and said, Well, look here who showed up on our doorstep, Charlie. She held the door open. Howard Odom, in need of some cinnamon toast, I bet, she said, or cereal, or eggs, or grits. You need some grits, Howard. He stepped inside and shook his head. No, ma'am. Then he turned to me and said, Want to pick wild strawberries? He held up an empty milk carton with the top cut off. I know where there's tons. I pushed hair out of my eyes. Y'all go on and pick strawberries, Bertha said. I'll keep an eye on things here. She nodded in the direction of the trap at the edge of the yard. And then I collapsed into a puddle of sorrow on the couch and told Howard about Wishbone running off. Then I finished. All I wanted to do was flop down and cry. But Howard said, What are you sitting here for? Let's go find him. Then the next thing I knew, he was out the door and grabbing his bike, leaving me to run to my room to get dressed and scramble after him.